Hi, everybody. Mike Handcock here, Chairman of the Circle of Excellence Group of Companies. And today we're going to be talking about launching or the launchpad of your sales strategy. Now, I think this is going to be very interesting because most people don't even have a sales strategy. So we're going to talk through this for about 20 minutes or so, and then we're going to jump into questions. But I want to, in order to move forward into sales strategy, I want to take you back. I want to take you back to February the 12th, 2012. And I was sitting on my couch in Auckland, New Zealand, watching Simon Cowell on the X Factor. And I thought to myself, I wonder if there's anything like an entrepreneur X Factor. And I thought, surely somebody's thought of that. So I went to Google and I typed in entrepreneur X Factor and I couldn't find anything. And I thought, wow, I can't believe nobody's thought of that. And I thought, I'll bet you the .com is not available. So I went to GoDaddy and I put in entrepreneurxfactor.com. And for $19.95, I was able to purchase the domain for entrepreneurxfactor.com, which is weird because almost no domains are available that you ever wanted to have these days. I mean, you've got to come up with something really unique or put hyphens in them or some other thing, or have a .net or a .club or a whatever you've got on the back, .tv, etc. But entrepreneurxfactor.com was it. Then after I bought it and spent my $20, $19.95, I sat there and I thought, okay, so it's a good brand. What the heck do I do with it? So I didn't have an idea at that stage. I actually started with the brand, which is totally against my way of doing things because you should also always start with the development of the idea. So then I thought I better develop the idea. And I thought, well, it's obviously a competition because X Factor, the TV show, is a competition. And so I thought it's obviously competition for entrepreneurs. So we need to run a competition for entrepreneurs. But the way in which we could do that is that we could pull a whole one-day event together that built up to the competition towards the end of the day, and we could give a prize for the person who had the most X Factor. So that's when I decided to pull in my business partner at the time, and I rang him. He was living in Singapore, Canadian, and I said to him, Dave, we are going to do this thing called Entrepreneur X Factor. So that was on the 12th of February. This is a newspaper article that came out sometime after that, in some paper or somewhere around the world. And so then we went on a journey to run Entrepreneur X Factor events. And at some stage between the 12th of February and the 16th of May, we decided what they would look like, where we would go, what the business model for it would look like, how we were going to sell it, and what it actually did. And was it a business? Was it a product line? Was it a this? Was it a that? And we just thought at this stage, it's a product line. So we're going to launch this product line. So that was February, March, April, May. So 3 months, 90 days. So it took us 90 days to basically put everything together and to start marketing in the last month of that. So basically from after Easter that year, I'm sure that's when we would have started, to the 16th of May, we were actually starting our marketing and putting in our project management systems to market that event. This is what happened then. Entrepreneur X Factor went around the world. So what you're seeing in the photos here is the team of the finalists in different countries around the world. You'll see it in Prague, down the bottom left there. You'll see we're in various business magazines and different things up at the top there. This was all created in those 3 months. You'll see our logo there. You'll see Dave on the bottom right there standing next to Eric Lassard, who was at that stage the winner of Dublin, Ireland. And he was the youngest inspirational author, public speaker, and board game creator on the planet at that point of time. He was 9 years old. At 9 years old, he became the youngest ever Circle of Excellence Gold member. And not his mother telling us that he should do it, but him telling his mother, we need to do this. And that was right back there in 2012. Just as an aside story, 13 years later, Eric's now 22, going on 23. He's won Silicon Valley Awards. He's won many different awards. He's based now in Las Vegas, Nevada, with his family, and they are following his journey as an entrepreneur, and he has been an extraordinary entrepreneur. And actually, when I read his book that he'd just come out with when he was 9, I actually had to tell you it was one of the best personal development books I thought I'd ever read, and it was only 80 pages long. So that's what happened in 2012. Just to give you some idea, we started on our first event happened on the 16th of May, 2012 in Auckland, New Zealand, and it finished on the 4th of July, 2012 with our last event in Oslo in Norway. Here's some of the photos from different events that we have around the world, anywhere between about 40 in some countries and about 200 in other countries. People showed up. 15 countries, 18 events, and the gross figure from that idea that I came up with sitting in front of the television, just less than 5 months later, was $500,000 US. So I'm sharing this with you because this is how quickly something can actually come about. And when you get something that comes about as quickly as this does, you just press through with it and you milk it as much as you can. And you try and make it the most successful possible thing that you can make in the shortest space of time possible. But in doing that, you need a sales strategy launchpad. So this was my idea in 2012. I'm going to go on and share a little bit more about it, and then I'm going to come to the sales launchpad strategy. There was something fascinating that happened because in the next year, in 2013, we stretched Entrepreneur X Factor to 26 different countries, around about 35 events. And I don't remember the amount of money that, because I didn't track it like I tracked that first year, but it was probably around about $800,000 in the second year alone. But it had another interesting side to it, and that was that on the 28th of May, 2013, I ran an Entrepreneur X Factor event in Johannesburg. These are the finalists here. And in the middle there, you will see the winner of Entrepreneur X Factor standing next to me, whose name is Lundy Jack, who these days is my wife and business partner. And that photo was taken as one of 3 photos I have on the first day that we met. And so she won the event there, and that led on to us becoming friends, and then relationships, then husband and wife. So amazing what an idea can bring for you. And so I wanted to share that personal side of this as well. But Entrepreneur X Factor became more things. It became a best-selling book, top left there. You'll see it, the pink and blue book. That came out in 2014. Then the follow-up book on the top right came out in 2022. So both of them international best-selling books, very similar content from the perspective of it's not a brand new book. These were books that were version 1 and version 2 of the same book, but multi-authored books. And not all of the authors are the same in book 1 and book 2. There's some definite differences in the authors as well. But it also turned into Young Entrepreneur X Factor, which was launched in 2019. You'll see the banner in the middle there for this year's event, which was the final happening in Jakarta earlier this year. And I have to tell you that all Lundy and I do for Young Entrepreneur X Factor is run some strategy meetings and judge the final. All of that is run. And there in the 2 bottom photos on the bottom right, you'll see this year's winner of Young Entrepreneur X Factor. And on the bottom left, you'll see all the winners sitting in Jakarta of Young Entrepreneur X Factor, a competition which now involves hundreds of children from various schools around the world, predominantly Asia still, but also Australia and New Zealand as well, but expanding. It's also become a television series, or I should say documentary, in Indonesia based around this event. who was to know that for me sitting and watching something on TV and going, I wonder if anybody has ever thought of Entrepreneur X Factor, that it would become best-selling books, the love of my life, millions of dollars, helping kids around the world, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And so I'm saying this because to do this, you need some type of sales launchpad. So let's go and have a look at the sales launchpad strategy. So firstly, there's a fundamental side to this, which is what I call the DOME method. And that is when you have any new idea, like I had with Entrepreneur X Factor back, all those years ago, the first thing you want to do is you want to do a diagnosis. So what is the state of the market in relation to this? And as you could see in that, there was no Entrepreneur X Factor. Nothing existed. There were some entrepreneur competitions, but none of them had really sexy brands or were vibrant or had the fun. And you can see from these event photos that I showed you, this was fun. This was bold. It was inclusive. This was global. So then you have to come up with your objective. What's your objective? And my objective was obviously to make money out of it. My objective was branding as much as anything. My objective was to go global, and by bringing entrepreneurs together from around the world and different winners from the Americas, Asia, Pacifics, European and African continents, then you would basically have something where everybody would be talking, and of course, everybody would be posting, and that would grow our brand. And every year that we've run Entrepreneur X Factor, and we haven't run it every year, but since 2012, I think we've probably run 7 or 8 of them. But every year that we've run it, we have increased our database for somewhere upwards of 5,000, maximum of about 10,000 people on our database through this as well. So then there is the method. What is the method that you are going to roll out of your new idea? In other words, what's this step A, step 1, step 2, step 3, so on and so forth. And then lastly, how do you evaluate this to decide whether this has been a good idea that you've had, and then what is next for this idea? So for us, it obviously came out of that first year's competition, second year's competition in 2012 and 2013, and then into a book format, which came out in 2014, which won one of the Business Book of the Year awards in New Zealand, was at the Frankfurt Book Fair that year and got us some international distributorship, et cetera, et cetera. And till today, I think has been the second best selling book I've ever been involved with. So how do you evaluate that? So write this down or take a screenshot of DOME: diagnosis, objective, method, and evaluation. Now we're going to move from there and we're going to start to look into the sales launchpad strategy. So this is something that has just 6 steps, and I'm going to go through each of the 6 steps with you, and then we're going to have some time for questions after that. So let's look at the first step. The first step is research. So whenever you come up with a new idea, you need to do some research into it. So it says here, and I'll read it for those of you that are listening to this just on audio: conduct market research to identify your ideal customers' demographic and psychographic profiles, understands their needs, their pain points, and their purchasing behavior. So for us, we were saying, okay, where do entrepreneurs that would like to win an award hang out? And the answer was they hang out at co-working spaces, they hang out at business incubators, they hang out at entrepreneur networks, they are at BNI, they are in all of those sort of places. So for us, it was a matter of then deciding when we were going to market that we were going to, if we were going to go to Prague, for instance, first thing is we'd need a coordinator there. So we were reaching out on LinkedIn to see who could coordinate that area for us. And we made some great contacts, and through that, we were able to select our coordinator. And then from there, coordinating with the business incubators, the hubs, the entrepreneur meetups, all the different things that I just mentioned before to get the message out there. And then through our chosen method, which was strategic alliances, to go and fill those rooms. And not every event was a raging success. I think as per typical, which has been with us, London was our worst event. I think we had like 20 people show up in London. So that was our lowest. I've never had much success in London, except going back to maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Apart from that, it's never been great. But then we had amazing audiences in some places. Johannesburg, our first year was like 250 people turned up on the day. It was like bedlam trying to run the event. So that was an amazing audience. India was over 400 people. That was crazy to run that sort of event as well. In Mumbai, Bangalore wasn't so bad. It was only about 100 people. So I remember those events distinctly. I remember our Western Australian event also was large. So research is a huge part of this. And then number 2 is your unique value proposition. So clearly articulate what sets your services apart from the competition. Focus on the unique benefits and solutions that you offer that address that target market's needs. So for Entrepreneur X Factor, what was clearly delineating us from the competition, number 1 is that we had a full day event which included learning, and everybody who registered got some things that they could take away from it. So it wasn't just turn up and, sing for 5 minutes and get kicked out. That wasn't the case. You were involved in a full day. What also set us apart is that this was global. We didn't just try and do it in one area. It was across the world. And then we went from the heat to the finals late in the day, and then the finalists, which you saw many of the pictures there of the finalists that were there, and then the final competition. So it was keeping people engaged and really hyping it up. And it was a big hype. So that was quite unique compared to other entrepreneur competitions, which aren't really that hypey. There was a lot of hype in this. And then there was also the branding, and you saw a bit of the branding in the newspaper articles and the way in which that worked as well. So number 3 is to create your sales process. So develop a structured process that guides people from awareness to decision-making and then to purchase. This should include steps like lead generation, qualification, nurturing, closing, and then, of course, follow up. So we realized that with Entrepreneur X Factor that, we could sell tickets to the event. So that was obvious for us. But, tickets to an event even then weren't, you weren't going to make a lot of money out of getting 50 or 60 people to an event at a ticket price. But the ticket sales were designed, the way in which we did them is we designed our structures so that from the ticket sales, we would be able to cover the venue, our travel, and our accommodation to that place. So that way, our global trip was 100% paid for. So then we had to come up with a proposition then, which was an upsell from those events. And our Circle of Excellence Gold membership was a natural upsell, but there were also a couple of other upsells that we had, or sideways sells from that as well. So this wasn't, and for those of you that are Circle of Excellence watching this now, this wasn't the same way that you were brought in. This was quite literally, we were having people fill in the forms in the room, and those forms came to us, and then we did follow-up calls with people for about 10 minutes each, and we decided whether we would take them on or not. That was how we first started that process right back then. But our process, and we had to run quite a strict project management system behind events, because we were literally, we'd marketed the first few events by the time we started the first event to 2012, which was in Auckland, but we certainly didn't have anybody coming to Oslo, which was the last place we were going to be at that point of time. So we had to run a project management thing, which was reaching out to people, securing our collaborator on the ground, securing our strategic alliances, first marketing going out 4 weeks before, second marketing 3 weeks before, third marketing 2 weeks before, fourth and fifth marketing in the last week to get people to the event. So you need that sort of sales process. You need that type of follow-up and things like that to happen, or else what you're going to find is you're going to find that you go through the typical things that entrepreneurs go through, which is feast or famine. Oh, I'm so busy, I don't know what to do, and I've got no time to market. Oh, I'm so broke now, I better market. Okay, having these project management systems that run underneath things like this so that you're constantly marketing and constantly selling is going to just make the business so much more secure for you. Number four. So number four is setting a price strategy. So determining the pricing models that reflect the value of your services whilst remaining competitive, and consider factors like cost, perceived value, market demand, and competitive pricing. So we had to look at the pricing. It was very different in different countries. For instance, in France, you will pay a lot more to go to an event. So nobody will go to an event in this day and age. I can't remember the prices in 2012, but nobody will go to an event in France unless it's at minimum €100 because they just don't think it's worthwhile. Whereas most people, if you were charging €100, wouldn't go to an event in Johannesburg. So you have to price for a local marketplace. Does your end product that you have, for instance, ours is an upsell, did we price it differently in different markets? No, we didn't. We simply used the fact that in places like India, there were going to literally be more people at the event. So we're probably going to have the same numbers buying our end product at a high ticket offer from India as what we did from, say, Auckland, where we would have obviously a lot lower number of people, maybe I think 80 or 90 people there in the first instance. So, but the thing is that you have to set your pricing structure. It can be market specific. You have to give good thought to that. I'm a great fan of look at what your competitors are doing and then throw it away and do your own thing and make it so much better. The idea is not to differentiate from your competitors. The idea is to be so unique in many ways that they simply can't compete with you and there's no competition. And in fact, what we do for our Circle of Excellence Gold members, we still say there's nobody else in the world who does that. There's no one. We've never come across anybody who does that. So we've come across lots of people who do parts of it, but never anybody who does all of it put together like that. So try and be that unique. Then number 5 is developing your sales armor. And what I mean by sales armor is creating your high quality sales material, your pitch decks, your brochures, your case studies, your testimonials, your presentations, whatever you need that is clearly going to communicate your value proposition and your services. For us, it was the logos. For us, it was the copy. For us, it was the banners, the Facebook things. And you can see how, even in the photo that I showed you, how the people in the Czech Republic took our intellectual property under license from us and put it in Czech. But it still had the same feel as if it was going to be in Dublin or if it was going to be in Sydney, Australia. So develop that sales armor. Then for us, it was also the presentations. Our sales armor was the way in which we showed up, the way in which we dressed as well. I went through a whole era around about then of basically using hats. And so I was using hats. So I was working with a lot of hats at that stage and was known for those as well as my shirts and shoes, which I was always known for, part of the sales armor there. And then number 6, coming down to really the evaluation part, which is monitor, analyze, and adapt. So using things like a CRM system to track your leads, manage your customer interactions, analyze your sales performance, and analyze regularly and position yourself to adapt. So we did that in the first year. We learned from that. We learned that some markets were ridiculously strong for us that we'd never considered before. Warsaw in Poland, Bucharest in Romania, just wonderful places for us. And we really did well in those places. London, as I said, we didn't even go back there in the second year of Entrepreneur X Factor and never run Entrepreneur X Factor there again, simply because it just didn't work. There was too much going on. It was too desensitized as a market, et cetera, et cetera. Even in the US running it, not to run it in LA or New York, but to run it in a couple of other different places. Vegas was a great, Phoenix was great for Entrepreneur X Factor, to give you some examples. So adapting and monitoring all the time. So when you evaluate, it's not just about how much money did we make, it's about how much fun did we have. Could this be a long-term process or something that we can hold on to long-term? So let's start to bring that whole sales Launchpad strategy and put it in some simple takeaways for you. Whenever you do something, it should always start as a project. you shouldn't look at it as something that you'll be basically, really attached to in the long term, but to do this as a project. So your first question is, should I do this again? Then your next question is, can I integrate this somehow into what we do so that it can be something that can go on, which is what we technically did with Entrepreneur X Factor. Then, is this a business? We only realized after about 5 years of doing it that this is a business, but it's not a business necessarily for our adult market. It's a business for the kids market, the young Entrepreneur X Factor. And then, can I scale this? And I've always thought that Entrepreneur X Factor is a television show. We've pitched it time and time again. We haven't had pickup except in Indonesia for Young Entrepreneur X Factor, but that was a documentary and it wasn't a regular television show. So can I scale this? We scaled it through books. So, we scaled it through some licensing of that to other people as well. We scaled it to open different markets and people we still have. And so we're not finished with Entrepreneur X Factor yet. You'll see it come back in this year as well, in another different way, in another different format later in this year. So that's essentially what I wanted to talk to you about today in terms of the overall Launchpad strategy. Let's jump into any questions that anybody might have and how this is relevant for you. Let's open it up for questions. Karen, any questions, or Brad or Sam, Melanie?
Like it's obviously it's very relevant for me because my business is completely new. I didn't come in to Circle of Excellence as I have a business and I want to improve it. I came in as essentially a startup that hadn't done anything yet. So all the sort of the research part and all of that, we've done all of that, and as we've interacted with those potential clients and gotten to know our focus changed because of what we learned. So it really works very well, that part. I mean, it's taken much longer than I would like it to take. But the fact is that we've learned so much from that process. And then having the focus groups was very, very helpful because it again changed the way we are focusing the service that we're offering. So, yeah, we're not.
And I think you brought up a very good point. You've brought up a very good point there, Karen, and that is focus groups. Focus groups can be an integral part of this strategy in the method. We didn't have any time to use focus groups in Entrepreneur X Factor. We were just thought this is a great idea. We're jumping into this. But I would definitely advise for anybody coming up with an idea that you take it through the process to a point where you're comfortable it can work, and then take it into a focus group. And tell me, what sort of fine tunes did your focus groups give you on your idea?
So interestingly, we had two focus groups and with quite different audiences. So the first one was who we thought would be our client, so the actual families that we're going to be working with. There were 3 families, and there were also 2 financial four financial advisors as well. But in the second focus group, it was just the financial advisors and family officers. So it was quite a different audience because the link to the families. And in the first one, because it was the families, they were all like, oh no, we don't have any problems, we're all good. And so they were quite resistant to it. And they were like, oh, you shouldn't tell us why it's going to cost us more if we don't go to you. They didn't want to hear that, which was very interesting because that is a pain point. If you
Absolutely.
don't do it this way, it's going to burn your pockets. Anyway, from the second one, what we realized was that, and from the first one, that our door, the gatekeepers are the financial advisors and the family officers, and those are the relationships we have to nurture and build on, which we have been doing really well. And they are such an amazing group of people. And so they love our concept. But what they also said to us is, instead of the mediation side, which is where we were targeting, that we must do more training for the families on conflict resolution and, you know, conflict styles and communication styles and all of that type of stuff. So the other product that we offer. So that was for me was the most interesting part. So yeah.
I think that's fantastic and great feedback. So what you found through the process of going through this, you know, sales launchpad cycle, when you got to your method, you put in focus groups, and those focus groups, one of them was the end client, and one of them was the intermediary that got to the end client. The end client were like, no, we're good, thank you very much. Often happens. But then you found that the intermediary goes, no, this is brilliant, everybody needs this. But they also were able to fine tune and give you some really great feedback, which sort of your positioned your product slightly differently than what you might have thought that was positioned. This is such a great case study in itself, and thanks for sharing that, Karen. Brad, I noticed you there. Did you have something you wanted to say? No, you're good. Okay, great. So are there any other questions or anything else that people would like to dig into with this? If not, then I'm going to make some suggestions to you. So I don't see hands up, so I'm going to go with my suggestions. So suggestion number one is that you run what we call our opportunities formula across this. And so what do I mean by our opportunities formula? I mean this. I mean that there's 6 stages to it. The first one is, does this idea that I've just come up with fit my passion and my purpose? If it doesn't, you shouldn't be doing it, okay? Number 2 is, can I add value to this in my natural way? So natural way doesn't necessarily mean what you're skilled to do, but it means in the way in which you like to do things. We've all got skills that we learn in life, but we don't want to have to use them if we don't have to. You know, nobody wants to sit there. Well, maybe some people do and do 100, you know, spreadsheets to make this work. Number 3, can I leverage this? Meaning, can I multiply it or magnify it and make it bigger? Number 4 is, if it fails, will it sink me? Because we've all heard of people who have spent their last dollar and become multi-billionaires, but we haven't heard about the people who have spent their last dollar and are now broke, which is probably 1 billion times more than the multi-billionaire people. So, you know, I don't believe in doing any crazy idea that'll put you in a situation that may break the bank. Number 5, does this motivate me? So a good thing would be, am I going to get out of bed early in the morning every day to do this? Am I motivated enough to do that? If the answer is no, and that's going to get tired really quickly, it's probably not the right idea for you. And then number 6, does the return inspire me? So in other words, is there something at the end of this that is going to really make me inspired, whether it be financial, whether it be maybe doing something for the greater good or some other reason? That's the fundamental whenever you come up with an idea. Does it fit my passion and purpose? Can I add value in my natural way? Can I leverage it? If it fails, will it sink me? Does it motivate me? And does the return inspire me? Once you have that, then essentially you've got a springboard to go into the sales strategy launchpad that I shared with you this morning, and start to do the research on the marketplace and start to do that the diagnosis. Okay, what's going on in the marketplace? Will this solve it? What's my objective here? What's my method? And I've outlined the method in the blueprint there. And then doing the evaluation at the end to make sure that should you continue doing this? Is it a product line? Is it something you do once a year as a project? Is it a business by itself? Is it even something that you don't want to do, but you've built it now and you could sell it and cash up a few bucks? That's another way to look at it. So there's different ways and different perspectives to look at this, but that's how you take an idea and turn it into a sales strategy and launch it. Folks, I hope that's been useful this morning. And I want to thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you again some other time.